The reason is you don't know where your next client's going to come from. Okay, because humans play in lots of sandboxes. They're in lots of different digital playgrounds, so to speak. And so I just want to make sure that I'm the most visible to give myself the most opportunities for conversions on any given day.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're going to do a great job. What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Man Podcast, where we are on a mission to connect men in pursuit of their potential. Now, before we jump into today's episode, which I can promise you is going to be a good one, I first want to encourage you, the listener, to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and do us a favor. Share this with a friend and leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. That's how we keep these episodes coming. Also, fellas, talking directly to you, I encourage you to check out the Noble Knights Mastermind group. That is where the growth is happening, fellas. It's free to join, and you'll have a community of other men, like-minded men, who are in pursuit of their potential. Tap in, and if you're looking to really invest in your growth, you can join us for our weekly mastermind calls as well. That's enough about subscribing and sharing. Right now, I want to get to our guest today, who is an entrepreneur, podcast host, author, speaker, and business coach. Dare I say, international business coach. It is a pleasure to have on the podcast Jordan Mendoza out of Georgia. Jordan, thanks for being on, man.
Ted, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. And listen, the intro does not do enough. I'll say it just right then and there. I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, because you've been on the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast, the podcast that precedes this one. But we had to have you back on for the Modern Man podcast, not just for the work that you did back then, the work that you've done since, the work you're doing now, the work that you have coming up. So I want to give the audience an opportunity to get acquainted with you, man, and find out more about what you do, how you do it, and then we can jump into our conversation. So go ahead, brother.
Yeah, perfect. Well, hey, I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share. And my goal is to hopefully provide some value to your amazing audience. And so I'm Jordan, like Ted said. I'm based here in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a husband, a father of 5, and 1 on the way. So about to have 6, right? 4 boys, 2 girls, and life is crazy. It's busy. It's wild, but I'm having the most fun that I've had in my career. And, I'm proud to say that I'm now a serial entrepreneur, having multiple businesses. And as Ted alluded to, doing some business internationally, which if you haven't done that yet, I'm going to share some stories today that'll hopefully encourage you to do it, right? Because it's kind of like, something new, but also some things not to do, once you cross the pond, so to speak. And so, again, honored to be here, Ted, and hopefully we can have some fun today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for a lot of guys listening, I think the ambition in us has us perked up a little bit when you talk about international businessman or entrepreneur, right? And doing business overseas. It's like a new level, a new status a lot of us could aspire to get to. But before we can get to that, we have to literally crawl before we can walk, and walk before we could run. So I'm interested to know, how does Jordan Mendoza get to the international level? Where does Jordan start in
Yeah.
the whole business arena, and how do we get here?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I've been involved in sales ever since I was 14, and for those listeners that have migrated from the other podcast, you probably remember me sharing a little bit about that story. Got into sales at 14, door to door, did door to door about 5 years, did telemarketing. I spent 8 years in property management as a trainer, and 5 years on site. And so, selling, customer service, that's kind of the realm that I've been in my whole entire life. And I've always, just had this ability to effectively communicate with people, and when you can do that, you can really have a livelihood in any business. If you can communicate, if you can look people in the eyes, if you know how to smile, maintain eye contact, all these things that we look at them as soft skills, but we need to try harder at these skills in 2024, because I walk into plenty of establishments and people don't even look you in the eye. They're on their phone and they're not even paying attention to you. And if they were to put in a little bit of energy and effort, it would be amazing where their career would actually take off. And so, I started creating content on LinkedIn in 2019 and getting really active, and it was actually a corporate goal of mine, that I got from my boss. And before I knew it, I grew this large audience, and it encouraged me to launch Blaze Your Own Trail in 2020. And ever since then, I've been, growing my own personal brand on LinkedIn and on other platforms. But what's most exciting is helping other people do the same thing and helping them grow their audiences. And what was really cool is I, was just kind of a regular day back in 2022 where I put out daily content on LinkedIn, and the posts that I shared, it was a pretty personal post where when I was 19, I got into a near fatal accident, almost died, almost lost my right leg, had 52 staples, and was in the hospital and had to rebuild the muscle. And I made a 6-month recovery. And I shared that post on LinkedIn. And I want to pause real quick because some of you have been through things in life. You've been through a trial, you've been through a tribulation, and for some reason you're afraid to put it out there. And what I want to encourage you to do is actually take that chance, invest in you, and tell that story, because you never know who's going to see it. And in 2022, in March, a lady in Belgium, she got impacted by it. She actually read it and she reached out and she said, "Hey, I saw your post. I really don't comment on anything, and it just impacted me so much. And I read your profile that you've got background in property management and you've got social media experience, and we need help with a go-to-market strategy for a Belgium-based startup." So
Mm,
because I decided, right, to put myself out there, even though it's not easy, because I have had the trolls come out of the woodworks when I shared personal things before, but I'm now to a place where I'm past that, and I'm good. They can say whatever they want. They're just going to increase the engagement. But because I decided to put myself out there, that turned into a conversation, which turned into a consulting gig, which turned into, now I'm part owner of a Belgium-based startup and have been involved for the last
mhm.
2.5 years. And
Yeah.
so that's the power of storytelling. It's the power of being a little vulnerable and taking something that maybe might seem a little messy and putting it out there to impact people in a positive way.
Man, that's fantastic. And for any of the listeners, I don't know if you picked up on the fact, Jordan uses my name when he talks and he's telling the story, and he says Ted. That keeps me engaged. That keeps me listening. Some of those soft skills we could use in our communication when you're with somebody. Use their name because it's the most beautiful thing that they love to hear. Um, Jordan, why LinkedIn? I'm curious. Why not Instagram? Why not Snapchat if that was blowing up at the
Oh,
time, or just
believe me,
traditional
I was
Facebook?
trying all of them. This
Hmm.
was 2017, and I tried Snapchat. I couldn't even see myself because I was a filter. I was like a creature or something. I was so confused, bro. Like my daughters and my son, like they're good at that. I could not figure. So I was like, Snapchat's out. This is not the platform we're gonna get associates. Because again, I got a goal to get associates involved in social media, and so Snapchat wasn't it. I tried Facebook groups. Is like, no one's going to do that. They were not about logging into Facebook. But when I got on LinkedIn in 2019, this is when video first came out. And if you're hearing the sound of my voice, we're in 2024, and now video is not just out on LinkedIn, but they're actually beta testing a video only feed right now. And
Oh yeah.
so what that means is if you're listening or watching this show and you're not posting consistent video now, you need to start tomorrow, because when a platform invests in a technology, they're going to push that new technology. Does that make sense? They're going to push
Mhm.
that new feature. And so if you can be an early adopter into it, then you can actually start to get some exposure. And so I was an early adopter back in 2019 when video first came out. And this was before vertical, right? It was just more like YouTube style video, landscape mode video. And I just really got consistent. And my first video was, "Hey, does anyone know how to find a social media platform to get associates engaged?" I literally asked the question to the platform, and it had 5 views, and all of them were me, because I kept rewatching the thing. And I was so worried about who was going to watch it. And then I met a guy that really inspired me named Brian Schulman. And he took a call with me for whatever reason. He just decided to talk to me when I was traveling up in Boston, and he gave me some really good advice because I was kind of putting pressure on myself. And I think that'll resonate with a lot of your listeners. We get to this place where we're just like, we put so much pressure on us. Like, we have to be the best. We got to do the best. And he just said, listen, I want to give you some advice, and hopefully you can take it and run with it. And he said, just try to inspire one person a day, you know? And so once I knew that, that's when I started showing up and putting myself out there consistently. And here's the thing, the funny part is, associates never used it. But I started growing this brand that, now you fast forward where, we've got so many people that are in the audience now because of the exponential growth of what happens with compound time, right? When you put energy and effort into something for long enough, people will start to pay attention and they'll start to notice. And so that's really where it began. And I was building my brand and didn't know it. Okay. And so I started to reverse engineer how I was doing it because I had people trying to pay me to help them. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how I did this. Like, how can I charge you? And so I said, hey, let me just help you for free, right? Like all good entrepreneurs do. You just want to help people. So I started helping people until my wife one day was like, hey, I noticed you're on a lot of these calls. Like, are any of these people paying you? Like, you making any money from this LinkedIn stuff? And I was like, hey, that's a good idea, right? And then that's kind of how the coaching program was born. Is I had to reverse engineer it. I had to go back and say, okay, what did I do first, right? What did
Yeah.
I do first? What did I do second? How did I actually build this? Because if usually if you figure something out, it's not just by accident. There's a system and there's a process and there's a way that you actually do it. And so that's really what I did is I figured out, I extracted everything and I packaged it up. And that became my first program back when it used to be 12 weeks, where in 12 weeks, I was helping people go from optimizing their profile to actually understanding how to fish and bring in clients on the platform.
What does consistency look like? You said a couple times you were just
Yeah.
consistent. You were just consistent. Is that one post a week? Is that one post, 5 comments a week? For anybody that's
Yep.
listening, they want to start building their social presence and
Yeah.
they're looking for a consistent cadence. What does that consistency
Yeah.
look like?
Yeah. So there's something called momentum, right? And momentum happens after action. Momentum just doesn't happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a rock at the top of a hill just doesn't start rolling. Something
Mhm.
has to occur, which is action. And so when you can take action, that's going to create momentum. And then that momentum creates the consistency, right? Because when we do something and we start to see a result, we get a little excited and we want to do it over and over again. And so what that looks like if you're trying to build a brand, and we can even take LinkedIn out of the equation. We could say TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I don't really care. Insert your platform here. You need to show up daily. This is not a this
Mm.
is not a one. We're in 2024. This is not a once a week situation. This is a, if I want to see results, I need to show up day in and day out.
Is this
Now, day
Monday
in
through
and day out,
Friday or
Monday through
weekends
Friday,
included?
100%. Monday through Friday. For all my clients that I coach, I say the bare minimum should be Monday through Friday, and the weekends are a bonus.
Mm.
Because here's the thing, if your goal is to help people, which is most people that are in my audience and most people that are in yours, they probably want to impact and help other people. Well, if you want to do that, you have to be what's called top of mind. And it's very hard with all the money that's being pumped into paid ads to be top of mind if you post once a week. It's very hard to be top of mind if you post twice a week. Because what I want to happen is when I see somebody at Kroger or at my church, I want them to say, "Hey, when I opened up LinkedIn, I saw your face."
Yeah.
Hey, a great podcast episode, great video, because again, I'm in their face. And how do you get in their face? Well, you can't do it once a week. You're not going to be in anyone's face. You're going to be essentially buried in the algorithm. So if you're not showing up consistently, you're not going to be top of mind. And if you're not top of mind, the next time someone's thinking about that thing that you do, they may not be thinking about you.
Mm.
And so you have to, and again, what's really great, I'm going to give you guys some pro tips here. Most platforms have an internal scheduling tool. Okay, so whatever excuse you're thinking of right now of why you can't do Monday through Friday, you
I'm
throw
busy.
that sucker out the window. Okay, and if I have 5 kids and 1 on the way, if I can be consistent, none of you jokers, you should have an excuse. Unless some of you has a 7 kids, write me and tell me that, and then I'll give you the excuse there. But here's the thing, guys. If you schedule, for example, you can schedule reels on Facebook, or right, you can schedule those out. I don't
Yep.
recommend third-party softwares, and here's the reason. Most platforms, when they see something come in from a third-party tool, they will actually throttle the viewership. And
Mm,
why? Because you didn't use their internal platform. So, what I recommend, like even LinkedIn has the ability to schedule on your personal profile and on your company page. So, you can schedule the next 2 weeks of content, graphics, polls, videos. So, in 2024, there really isn't an excuse to be consistent. It's where are you investing your time? Okay.
mm.
And is that the best place to invest it? Because some of you can probably recite every scene from your favorite Netflix series. Okay. But can you recite or did you reply to every comment that commented on your post? I don't know. Right. So again, it's about intentionality, right? Where do you want to go, and where's your intention? And then are you maximizing the efforts that you're putting out?
What do you say to the people who are like, "Listen, Jordan, I have 1,000 followers. I don't wanna overwhelm them. I don't wanna oversaturate them, hitting them with a post every day. They'll get tired of me and unfollow me."
There's a chance they won't even see your post. Okay, so that's why we're putting out one a day, because they may not see the one on Monday. They may not see the one on Wednesday, but they might finally see the one Friday, which is gonna. Here's what happens. I don't know if you're like me, Ted, where if I watch a video and I like it, what do? I just keep going through their feed. Does that make sense? And so we
Next.
only need them to see one. Okay, but if that one's good enough, that'll bring them back to your profile. And if your profile is optimized and dialed in and structured the right way, your profile is going to help convert that person. Okay. And so
Okay.
that's another kind of pro tip is before you spend time and energy and effort scheduling and posting content, your foundations need to be dialed in, right? Whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. I've seen so many profiles that were so underwhelming that it doesn't matter how many videos you put out, you're not going to convert anyone when they get to your profile. So starting with strong foundations and getting your profile completely optimized, it would be a great place to start.
You know what I'm gonna ask? What does
Yep.
a strong foundation look like?
100%. So we'll leverage the context of LinkedIn, and what's great about this information is you can basically take it and apply it to Facebook and TikTok and all the other platforms, okay?
Got you.
So if I were just going to give you, hey, what are the 6 things you could do today to optimize your profile so you're on firm foundations? Would that be helpful, Ted?
That would be fantastic, and I think our audience would
Okay.
love that as well. Let me get my pen out.
Perfect. So, yeah, grab your pen. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take a look at your banner image. So your banner image on LinkedIn is either gray because you haven't put anything there. Okay, there's going to be a couple people guilty of that, or you have an image there or a picture or something like that. Now, most people don't realize this, but billboards on the side of the freeway are not cheap. Okay, I mean you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars to get that
Yeah.
exposure. Guess how much Ted LinkedIn charges us for the billboard?
Last time I checked, it was like free 99.
$0 and 0 cents. So some of you are missing out on a big opportunity to tell people what you do, who you serve, have a call to action on what you want them to do as a result of viewing your profile, and then branding it with your logo or something like that. Okay. So those are the
So
components that I would add onto your banner image.
so when it comes to the banner, a picture is just not enough. Me and my family is
A
just not
picture's
enough.
yeah, a picture's just not enough, because a picture's nice, but pictures don't really convert, if that makes sense. Because we as humans, unfortunately, we need to be told exactly what to do. Like
Mm,
we need you to spell it out for us. We need to tell us what to do next. Okay. And so what is that next step for people for you? And that's what you need to have on your banner. And what's really cool, pro tip here, if you go to canva.com, Canva's a graphic designer tool, and you type in the search LinkedIn banner, it will literally give you templates. For those of you that are like, Jordan, I'm not a graphic designer. Cool. Go to Canva.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
it's
either.
free.
Go to Canva and it's free. And then you just switch out your brand colors, your palette, design that thing. Hey, go look at, my logo, my banner, and go copy that thing and put your own stuff in there. I don't care. Does that make sense? But you got to have something, and it's got to tell people who you are and what you do and what you want them to do next.
Got it.
Okay.
Number
The
one,
next
banner.
thing that I see, that's number one, right? The second thing is look at your profile photo. If that photo is you in your cap and gown and you've been out of college for a long time, it's time to update it. Okay. If that photo is you in a suit and tie and you haven't worn one since 2020 and you wear V-necks all the time, you better switch the picture out. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
the other thing is there's something called continuity, right? And what that is basically you want everything that you have on every platform to be the same, right? So, like your Facebook, your Instagram photo, your TikTok, if you go find me on any platform, you're going to see the same picture.
Mhm.
Why? Because I want people to remember, I don't want it to look different somewhere. I want them, when they see my face, they know that it's me. They know that it's the same person today. Okay. So that's the
Mhm.
other thing that I would fix. The next thing is right under your photo, there is text. It's called headline text. And
Okay.
this is where it should start with your service statement. So the best way that I can frame this up is I help X do Y by Z. Okay, so mine is I help entrepreneurs and companies leverage digital marketing and social media to win business, right? I help X
Mhm.
do Y by Z. That should be
Yeah.
first. Why should it be first? Because it clearly tells people who you are and what you do and how you do it. Okay. Now, what you want to do as well is have some keywords that you want to be found for. So, mine, you'll see podcast host, author, speaker. These are things I want to be found for on LinkedIn. And finally, you want to add a verbal call to action of what you want them to do next. And so mine will say subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter in my featured section. So that way people go where? They go to my featured section. Okay.
Mm.
The fourth thing is we've covered your banner, your photo, your headline text. The fourth thing is your about summary, and this is where I see the biggest mistakes on LinkedIn, because the about summary is supposed to be about you, about your story, about your journey. Most people take their resume, they copy it, and they paste it, and they put it in their about summary. Okay, and so that's one of the biggest things is you want to start off with a hook. How can I hook the reader into investing in my story? And so my about summary, the first line says, growing up with a mom that had one lung taught me a lot about what real adversity was. Why? Because I want to hook people and I want them to say, okay, is this still LinkedIn? Like that was kind of deep. And
Land
I
on the
want
New
them
York
to continue
Times.
to read. Right. Yeah, that's right. I want them to read and I want them to learn more about me and my story. Because here's the thing, folks, it doesn't matter who finds you on LinkedIn. Okay. It doesn't matter who finds you on Instagram. You are working with humans. Okay. You're not
Mhm.
working with robots. You're dealing with real people, with real stuff, with real emotions, with real trauma. And the more you can express who you are and story tell and share your story and journey in an impactful way, the more you're actually going to be able to relate to people. Okay, because some people can't relate to PhDs and certifications and Johns Hopkins and all these different accolades, but they can relate to failure. They can
Yeah.
relate to loss, maybe a divorce. They can relate to pain. Does that make sense? Because the one thing that I will guarantee that every one of these listeners in your show, Ted, are going to face is adversity. That's the one guarantee, right? And so, if the more that you can really give people context into your story, the more people that are going to want to connect with you, they're going to want to follow with you, they're going to want to partner with you, and they're going to want to do business with you. And so
Mhm.
that's really, for your about summary, you have 2,600 characters to make an impact. Okay. And at the end of that impact, so you have your story, your pivot, kind of talking about what you do, and then you have another call to action at the end of your about summary. And the next couple items are your featured section, which is gives you the ability to showcase things that are important to you. So I mentioned earlier, in my headline text, I point people to my featured section to subscribe to my newsletter. Well, Ted, I launched that newsletter about a year and a half ago, and now we're at over 18,000 subscribers.
Let's
Okay, in a
go.
year and a half. And so I believe a lot of that has contributed to the fact that I'm giving people a passive opportunity to view my profile and hit that subscribe button if they feel necessary. Okay. And so that's one thing where you can put your discovery call link for those of you that are coaches. You can put your podcast link for those of you that are podcasters. You could put any of that stuff there, and you're driving traffic to that location. Okay.
Nice.
And the sixth and final thing that I'll tell you is everything under your featured section. So you have things like skills, licenses, certification, you've got your experience section. You want to truly dive into each of those components and edit them to where you're maximizing everything that you have to offer. And so what I mean by that is your experience section, your descriptions should be maximized to that 2000 characters. If you've got photos, if you've got links, you can actually embed those in there. So you want to make your profile much more rich and much more SEO optimized so that you maximize the potential opportunity.
SEO optimized. What does that mean?
Keywords, right? Just having tons of keywords, having tons of actual words in your profile where you're able to put those words. So your description and your about summary, your headline text. LinkedIn is reading all of that stuff and it's choosing how it's going to show you and who it's going to show you to.
So if I'm in the cleaning business, I'm going to want as many SEO keywords as possible that touches
100%.
on
Yep.
cleaning
Cleaning
services,
apartments, cleaning homes, yeah, buildings,
houses.
right.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
100%. That's
Gotcha.
exactly it.
Just dialing
Yeah.
that in for the
And so if
viewers
you
at
do
home.
those 6 things, folks, you will have a optimized LinkedIn profile and you will be ready to show up consistently, to show up and put out content on that, Monday through Friday cadence.
Mhm. Now, I was taking notes while you were doing this, and for folks that are listening, sometimes they're driving, sometimes they're working out. You have this resource available for people, a roadmap that
Yes,
they could access, right? In
100%.
case this was a little too fast for them.
Yeah, yeah, and that roadmap actually does a lot more, so I kind of just went surface level. We just went into the first piece of the roadmap, which is optimization. And so the roadmap, we dive into, content strategy, engagement strategy, growth, and monetization, right? So we cover the 5 other elements that you really need dialed in order to turn LinkedIn into a client acquisition machine.
I love that. I love that. You mentioned sharing your story, being vulnerable, and how it can connect with people. Man, I'm in a season of no right now, Jordan. I have a project I'm working on. The podcast is great. Work is great. Everything, the baby's 4.5 months old. Things are rocking and rolling. So I'll get a LinkedIn profile. Hey, Ted, experiencing any burnout at work? Or, hey, Ted, are you looking for new opportunities? I'll be honest, Jordan, I ignore those DMs. I'm a quick no, nope, no, thank you. Um, am I missing out on opportunities? Am I leaving money on the table? How important
Um,
is it to um, pay attention to what's coming into my DMs? Who am I DMing? Should I DM people? Let's talk about the DMs because I know
yeah,
that's where it goes down, man. How do
yeah,
we
yeah.
navigate that?
Well, man, the DMs can be complicated, right? Because there's so much noise, there's so much automation, there's so much people throwing up stuff on you. And so the feeling that you had, Ted, of like, man, this like it makes me feel icky almost.
Yeah,
That's not the feeling that I teach my clients on how to leverage the DM. So
I'm
because
glad.
that's not the right way to do it. Because here's the thing, folks. And well, let's just kind of use dating, and I haven't dated anybody in like 20 something years. I've been with my wife 21 years, but let's just put in the context of dating. If you were going to go out and you want to take a nice young lady out, where do we go, right? Where do we start, right? We usually hold the pull their chair back, let them sit down, and then what
Yeah,
do? We might order a beverage, right? And then
a little
then what do we do,
appetizer.
Ted?
You know
Maybe
what
a
I
little
mean?
appetizer, right? A little
Start slow.
something, and then we'll maybe get the main course, and if we're lucky, we get to dessert. Okay. Now, what's happening on LinkedIn is people are starting with the dessert. There is
I think they're
no
starting with
appetizer.
asking to come
There,
in.
there's something, yeah, right. They're trying to break in the door, right? And so again, what I'm saying is, you have to start somewhere, and that somewhere should not be, trying to go for the home run, and so you have to nurture relationships. You got to build that, and so how do we do that effectively? Well, I mean, it's kind of like if you were just meeting somebody walking down the street for the first time. You're walking your dog and you meet someone that's walking their dog. Like if somebody, you're walking your dog, someone's across walking theirs, and they wave to you, you're probably not going to be like, "Hey, I'm Ted. I want to sell you something. Like, would you like to buy something from me?" Right? You'd probably be like, "Hey, how are you? Great. Good morning. How's your dog? Do you mind if I pet your?" Right? So think about how you interact with regular people, because for some reason people have lost their sense, and they've forgotten how to actually be cordial and how to actually build relationships with people. And so when I'm connecting with somebody for the first time, if they accept if I send them a request, first of all, here's another pro tip: send a personalized request, folks. Okay, don't just go through like the person in the elevator that's at the 19th floor and they hit every single button. That's kind of like what you do on LinkedIn when you just hit that connect button because you're just trying to grow your audience real quick. Okay, don't do that. Okay, but if you do send out a request, make it personalized. Hey, Ted, man, I love what you're up to. I saw your latest video about XYZ, and I really feel like we have a lot of values that are similar. It'd be great to connect. Right? That's what your message should look like. Because if I said that to Ted in person, he'd be like, "Yeah, like that sounds awesome."
Let's do
Okay.
it.
And now when he accepts it, do we just end it there? Okay, no. And that's where a lot of people make mistake, is they're collecting connections. It's like, why are you connecting with people if you're not going to do anything with that person, right? Have any type of communication channel. And so when people connect, the next thing that I'm going to do when they accept it is say, "Hey, just wanted to say thanks so much for accepting my connection. If there's any way I could ever add value to you, don't hesitate to reach out. By the way, I dropped a new newsletter. I'd love for you to give me your feedback." What did I just do? I thanked him, I offered him assistance, and then I gave him some value in a piece of content, which is going to do what for my content? Well, they're probably going to go check it out, and they're going to hopefully get educated, and they're going to see what I'm all about, right? So, what am I
Yeah.
doing? I'm trying to nurture the relationship. I'm trying to get to know them. Okay. So, my next message to them, it's probably not going to be a message like a just text. It's probably going to be a voice note, or it's probably going to be a video, because mixing up the medium, folks, is a way to get people's attention. And if you're doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results, that's the definition of what? Insanity, right? So don't do that.
Mhm.
So mix it up. I might send a voice note. "Hey, just wanted to follow up again. Again, man, appreciate you checking out my newsletter. Thanks for that comment. I'd love to grab a virtual coffee sometime and see how we might be able to add value to each other. You open for that?" Right? And then if they say yes, boom. Now we're actually taking the online offline, right?
Yeah.
Similar to kind of how when we first originally connected, Ted, we took the online offline. We jumped on some calls and we got to break bread and actually get to know who each other were. And then we realized that there was a lot of commonality, right? And
Hmm.
so those are the same principles, guys. It's basically like all the things that you do well in in-person networking, just do it digitally. Just shift that over to the digital space. And for some reason, there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. Now when I'm knee deep in diapers at 3 a.m., I'm texting Jordan because I know he's got 5 kids, another on the way, and he's probably got the tips on how to get through this. Um, but I think what you said that was so heavy and so valuable that people need to drive home is the fact that they are interacting with human beings. You are
100%.
you're building a human connection, so you need to act human in this digital medium, and that
Yes.
gets lost and that gets disconnected a lot. I'm curious as to how you systemize this, and then I want to get into
Yep.
the international business strategies before we
Of
wrap up
course.
because I know a lot of folks are interested in that. But for anybody that's listening, they might be thinking to myself, how do I systemize this? I can't stop what I'm
Yep.
doing and then message somebody every time they accept my LinkedIn
100%.
request. I can't not only post every day, but then I'm answering DMs every day. I have a job. I have kids. I have right, like they're
Yep.
thinking all these things and they're trying to navigate how to systemize the actions in order to build a momentum that builds that brand.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, so well, at first it was organized chaos, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
I had a point where I had posts like hundreds of thousands of views, and so I was getting 200 connection requests a day. I mean, it
Phew.
was nuts, right? And so when if you have like an influx of people like that,
It's a good
just
problem.
throw out figuring it out of the window, because it's like there's no way I'm going to get back to everybody, right? So, but what I did for me is I would just have specific time blocks where that was a thing that I was going to do, right? In business, we call them RGAs, revenue generating activities.
Yes,
And to
sir.
me, if I'm going to go into the DMs and reply to people, that's a revenue generating activity. It may not generate revenue today, but there's a chance that it could create an opportunity in the future. And so I need to time block that. I need to know that for me, I hate admin work, and I'm fortunate to be at a place now where I have an amazing team that takes so much stuff off my plate that I did not have the luxury of before. And so I had to time block these things because if it was important to me, then I had to invest in it. Okay. And so I invested that time into budgeting for, hey, I'm going to reply to 20 messages. Okay. I'm going to send, 20 videos to people. I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to make sure that I do not do that. Does that make sense? And so
Yeah.
if you commit to it, you stick to it and you do it. And when you can do that over time, and that starts equating to revenue, now you can invest in other things, right? And so originally I invested in one person that was helping take some things off my plate, and now I have several people that take multiple things off my plate. So as you grow, I always say, reinvest that back into your business, and your
Mhm.
business is going to grow even faster, because we can do a lot alone, but with a team, it's just amazing what we can accomplish.
Do you have any daily minimums that you adhere to? You mentioned if you have it, stick to it. I for my approach, I've done the 5 5 5. Like five, comment on five, five DMs, and that's usually a daily
Sure.
discipline I stick to. Where my day's not done, my work is not done
Yep.
unless I've sent those X amount of DMs on X amount of platforms for that RGA, that revenue driving activity. And there is a follow question to that as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is your
So
minimum?
I would say, yeah, pick something that you can stick to. I think that's what's important because everybody's bandwidth is a little bit different, and so whatever that is to you. I know for me, when it comes to LinkedIn, actually engaging with about 20 to 25 people's content prior to you posting will exponentially increase what your post does, right? Because again, it's all about reciprocity, and if I go and engage on someone else's content, that the likelihood of them coming back to mine later is pretty high. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, set a goal for yourself. If whether it's 10, 20, whatever it is, start small. Like don't be like, hey, I'm gonna comment on 100 people's stuff, and then you never hit it, and then you just get discouraged, right? So don't make it so far out that it's just not attainable, but also don't make it too little where you're like, I'm gonna comment on one person's stuff today, and think it's gonna move the needle, right? Because it's not. And so you have to be, I would say, get real with yourself, like take an inventory on your time and then stick to something that you actually agree to yourself with.
100%. And last question on this topic in particular, you mentioned that lag time, the revenue generating activities, it doesn't create the revenue today, but it could change tomorrow. Someone starts
Yeah.
their daily discipline, or they start the roadmap that you've given them. They go to your LinkedIn page, they hit the featured section from your call to action, they get your resources, and they find the LinkedIn success roadmap, and they're following it. What is that
Yes.
lag time in terms of that revenue generating activity? I'm commenting today. When do the
Yeah.
dollars come?
Listen, it really depends, right? It depends on where the person is in the cycle for you, right? Because I've had people that got on a call with me and they just said, "How much is it?" And the reason why they said that is they've been following me for multiple years, and they just said, "Hey, I already knew I was going to work with you. I had X amount budgeted. As long as it doesn't go over that budget, then we're good."
Yeah.
Right? So that could happen, right? Because again, a lot of people, I would say 50 to 60% of people don't actually like or comment on your content, but they still see it. Okay, there's a
Ooh.
lot of people lurking out there. Okay, and lurkers are good. Lurkers are people that they're just slower to make decisions, but when they are ready to make that decision, they already know that it's the right decision because they've been consuming so much of your content. Okay, and so it's almost like everything that you put out, they're consuming. They're not giving you any indication of it until they reach out to you,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
pretty interesting. And so I say all that kind of in a long way to say that it really just depends. And the biggest thing that it depends on is, what do your systems and processes on the back end of connection look like? Okay, because
Mm,
again, if you have a resource for somebody, hopefully you don't just give them the resource and then you end the conversation there, because you're truly not doing the rest of your job, which is, if I give somebody a resource, I need to check on them and see how the resource is doing. I need to also let them know about other stuff I'm up to. Does that make sense? And we need to nurture people and have multiple touch points. And I think that's where a lot of people fail, is they're like, well, I did 5 posts in the last month. No one commented, so I just suck. No one's buying my product, sucks, right? And it's like, you got to put in more reps than that. But you also have to give yourself opportunity for reps. Okay. And what I mean
Mm,
by that is, most people that I work with and most of my services, someone just can't click on something and buy it. They have to actually come through me. And I would
correct.
assume, Ted, a lot of folks in your audience are the same. You're a
Yeah.
service provider, you're a coach, you're a consultant, and people have to talk to you before they invest in what you're doing. Is that pretty safe to say?
Yeah, I don't think you could
Okay.
just give me money. You have to talk to me first.
Yeah, got to talk to me, right? And so the reason why I'm saying that is, typically someone there's a form that people have to fill out in order to get to you, whether you use Calendly or Go High Level or Acuity. There's usually a system that people go through, okay? And if you're a business owner and you don't have a system like that installed, definitely get a system like that installed, and make sure that you're pre-qualifying the people before they are able to actually get to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's why I said it depends, because again, if someone likes a video, if I do a video about LinkedIn and I say, hey, if you're looking for LinkedIn coaching, I'm dropping a link below, book a call with me and I'd love to chat. If somebody books a call, I'm closing at a very high level. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And so if somebody books a call and gets to me, as long as everything that's in that form that they checked off is good, is a go, and I got the data, the chances of them being converted to a client are very, very high. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, I don't know when that touch point is going to come in or in which platform it's going to come from. And so for me, my strategy, we've been talking a lot about LinkedIn, but you're going to see me on every platform. The reason
Yeah.
is you don't know where your next client's going to come from. Okay, because humans play in lots of sandboxes. They're in lots of different digital playgrounds, so to speak. And so I just want to make sure that I'm the most visible to give myself the most opportunities for conversions on any given day.
Man, this is fantastic, and I know we're coming up on time. Are you good on time? Do we have a hard stop, or can I keep
Yeah,
pulling this
I'm
value
good.
from?
Yeah, I've got about a little bit of, I think 3:30. I've got a hard stop, but
Oh, perfect. We'll be done well before that. But I just, man, this sparked another question of mine. I wanted to make sure that we reserve time for just your experiences with international business, but building your reputation, building who you are online, and you mentioned the lurkers, and lurkers are good because you never know when they're going to make that decision to buy. It's all about the relationship that you set with them along the way. Um,
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man Podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com. When it comes to the systems and the processes on the back end, almost seems like a counterintuitive experience for your audience where the barrier of entry to see your stuff is very low. The barrier to entry to get your content is also very low. The barrier of entry to sit down and talk to you, fill out a form, fit the demographic, you qualify them, it's a little higher. Is that intentional? And does that pre-qualify some of the buyers for you? Because I
100%.
thought this was counterintuitive at first. I wanted to make it as easy to
Yep.
hop on a call with me, and then I'd have a bunch of unqualified calls, and I was like, no, 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 I got to make this harder to get in touch with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question, and this is a struggle that most of my clients that come to me have, this exact struggle where, they're getting on calls with people and they're not closing them, or they're just having so many what we call tire kickers, right? They saw Ted on TV. They're like, man, I got to get on a call with Ted. He seems like a cool guy. Like, I just want to rap with him for a minute. And you're like, bro, like you're wasting my time here. You don't even have a business. You don't have a budget, right? So yes, I would say that the form is almost the most important part of your business, because like you said a second ago, you have to pre-qualify people, and you have to make sure, because if you're a business owner like me that has multiple things going on, if you saw my Calendly, right, like I have probably 16 different events because I have multiple different things happening, and I need to make sure that the right people are getting to the right links. Does that make sense? So if I'm having a conversation about LinkedIn and I'm talking about how people can, build authority and build their brand and turn that into revenue, that's going to be my LinkedIn coaching program Clarity Call link, because I know it's structured in a way to bring me people that A, are qualified, that B, are committed, and that 3 are ready. Okay. And those 3 ingredients are how you convert at a high level. Okay. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, man, my link I think is not that robust, like I probably need to go back to the drawing board here, reach out to me. I'm happy to set up a call and just kind of show you the systems and processes that I've built. I'm never afraid to help other people, because I think it's important, and we don't know what we don't know. Right, we're
Yeah.
usually 2 or 3 tweaks away from some really, really big results.
Yeah, which I'm working on some of those tweaks myself to get even bigger results. I love it. Coming up towards the end of the podcast here, you mentioned reach out to you, right? You were reached out to, company in Denmark, saw your stuff, leads to an opportunity to become an international business owner. Now, um, I find when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to mentorship, and people like yourself who get to a certain level in life, you look around and you're like, man, if I can do it, I need to show other people how to do it. And I can only imagine anyone that follows your roadmap will get LinkedIn success. That LinkedIn success could lead to a similar message from a business overseas, or anybody with the aspirations of expanding their business, their entrepreneurial journey over the pond, across the pond. What words of advice would you give to any of our listeners who are entertaining that thought process, or just jumping into that foundation right now?
Yeah, so well, the opportunity in Europe, I was not looking for it. Let's just be very clear. So I had no intentions of doing international business, and that's the beauty of life, is you just don't know what's going to happen when you start putting yourself out there, when you start sharing information, because like you said a minute ago, there are people that are watching. There are people that are watching your move. There are people that follow you that you have no clue they're following you, that are paying attention to what you're doing, and they are, maybe a day away from sending you a message, and so the biggest thing I could say when it comes to international business is just understand that the way we operate in the States is not the same as most other countries. There's a longer courting process for hire. Like my hiring process, I was a consultant for about 4 or 5 months, and then it still took another 4 or 5 months for me to get on board, like a handshake deal, and then the official didn't happen for like a year later, right? So processes overseas, especially if we're talking about Europe, uh, they take longer, because people actually do things the way that I think we should in the U.S., which is they invest in you and they want to get to know you as a person. And so
Mm.
they had me meet investors and spend 8 hours walking around villages with people, and just literally we talked about business this much. Okay.
That's zero
And
for
so
anybody that's not watching.
it's actually a little counterintuitive to our culture, where we jump right into things. And so that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned is, you may have a lot of knowledge, and you got like, again, I kind of thought about what am I bringing to the table for this company? And they said that we don't care about any of that stuff. We actually brought you on because of your character, because of your grit, because of your determination, because of who you are as a human. And think about that. Like I have 15 years in property management. I got all this social media, all this sales, and they just made all of that seem like it was nothing.
Hmm.
Think about it.
Seems as
They said,
seems as
we
though,
literally invested in you because of you. And so it was
yeah.
character based. It was human based. And I think that's a lesson for a lot of us. It's like, the people that you work with, the people that you coach, the people that you are closest to, how are you investing in those relationships? What do your intentions look like? And are you having a slower courting process before you just jump into things with other people? And so I think those three things right there, I mean, that might be a good way to end the episode, because that's it right there. It's just going to be like, okay, maybe I have to do a little 24-point inspection on what's happening right now,
Yeah. I was gonna say it seems as though who you are is more important than what you know when it comes to international business.
100%. They could care less about. They said we could hire a property management agency and they could replace your knowledge. We could hire influencers that have millions of followers. They're like, all of that is great and it's a bonus. But the reason why we brought you on is we need somebody to be the face of this company. We need someone that loves communication, that loves being in front of people, and they're both extrovert or introverts. So they literally were looking for a guy like me that's not afraid to talk, that's not afraid to get in front of 20 people or 2,000, can work the room, right, can network, and they did not want to do that. And so they hired for their weaknesses, not for their strengths, because my strengths are their weaknesses and their strengths are my weaknesses. And when you can build a team like that and then create a really, really good culture, that's what turns into a beautiful organization.
Absolutely. Another nugget right there in terms of partner with people who have your weaknesses. Because if you partner with somebody who has the same strengths, one of you is irrelevant. Oh, man. Again, this has been a fantastic episode. Entrepreneur, podcast host, author, speaker, and business coach, Jordan Mendoza. How can folks reach you? How can folks connect to you, follow you, and of course, get some of the amazing resources that you offer on your social media platforms?
Yeah, well, hey, first of all, Ted, I just want to say thanks so much for the space, the opportunity to share. I know you've got an amazing community, and I'm just honored to be a part of it for round two. Super excited about that. And yeah, listen, if there was anything I said that resonated with you today, whether it was about LinkedIn or international business, message me over on LinkedIn. I got an open profile. I'm a premium user, so anybody can send me a message there. You can also shoot me over a connection request. Just tell me that you heard me on Ted's show. I'm going to make sure too I send Ted over the 6-step to LinkedIn success roadmap, but I do want to kind of one up it if you're okay with that, Ted.
Let's do it.
So I would love to really do something special for your audience, because I feel like a lot of folks that listen to this could benefit on being present over on LinkedIn. And so if there are people that you listen back, you kind of taken notes on some of the things, and you start to realize that that's a platform that you want to invest in, I'll actually give any of your listeners $500 off my 6-week program. All they have to do
Wow.
is message me on LinkedIn with the keyword modern, okay, for the Modern Man podcast. And anyone that messages me that within the next, when this episode airs, I'll go ahead and honor that discount. So, Ted, again, man, appreciate it, brother. You do such an amazing job as a host. You're so well prepared, and you know why, folks? Because he puts in the reps. He puts in the reps every day, and that's what it's all about.
I appreciate that. I mean, I looked at my wife. I don't know when it was, a few months ago, but I mean, you were on the No Rainbows podcast. I took a hiatus while I rebranded and did the Modern Man podcast. Outside of that hiatus, Jordan, for the past 5 years, I've had a podcast episode come out every Wednesday, and I haven't missed a Wednesday, with the
That's
exception of my
incredible.
rebrand hiatus. So you mentioned consistency, putting in the reps, and I still am getting better at this. I still have a lot more to learn in terms of podcasting, but as you mentioned, you have to put in the reps, and I will have those links in the show notes. And again, just gratitude from my audience to you for that wonderful 6-step program and that gift that so many people are going to benefit
My
from.
pleasure.
um, Two quick questions before we wrap up. I know you mentioned before we jumped on that you have a book coming up. I know that's going to be a
Yep.
couple months away from when this airs, but maybe give us a quick teaser on what that looks
Yeah.
like, what to expect.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I appreciate the access there. So the book is called How to Blaze Your Own Trail Despite Your Circumstances. And what's really cool about it is I dive into a lot of stories, a lot of lessons, losses, adversity, struggles, and pain, all the things that everyone that hears my voice today is going to go through in life.
Yeah.
And not only tell you the story, but I teach you the lessons and then give you actionable things that you can do to avoid some of the pitfalls that I made. And so it's going to be actionable, tangible, and it's one of those things that my goal is that it impacts people all over the globe, just to show them that doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what your education level is, your background, what you've been through, you too can blaze your own trail despite your circumstances.
Man, that's fantastic. Looking forward to that. I appreciate you collecting all that into a memoir, into a book, and sharing that with the world. So, definitely very, very selfless project in that. Um, Last question, Jordan. Usually the heaviest, which is why I save it for last. What is something you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
Oh man. So when I was 12 years old, we just moved 2 towns away, and I was playing Mortal Kombat 2 in a 7-Eleven. And I would just play Mortal Kombat 2, wait for my next bus. And I heard a man's voice yell, "Hey, Daniel." And I'm Jordan. So I just kept playing. And within about a minute, Ted, I was literally lifted up, was thrown against a Terminator 2 pinball machine. I was punched several times,
Oh
thrown
man.
on the ground, put in handcuffs, and put into a cop car. And my only saving grace was I knew my mom was on me the night before, and she made me do my homework. And so I knew in my London fog jacket in the right pocket that I had a crumpled up piece of paper with my name on it. And so I said to the officer, I was crying. I was literally in handcuffs at 12, skinny kid, like shouldn't even be in a cop car. And I'm like, "Sir, please look in my pocket and grab my homework out. You'll see my name's Jordan Mendoza." And man, he opened up that door. He reaches his hand in, and when he grabbed that crumpled piece of paper, Ted, he said Jordan Mendoza, and man, he just turned really white. He looked like a ghost because he knew he screwed up. And so
Damn.
at 12 years old, I was beaten, falsely arrested, racially profiled by police. And at the end of the whole ordeal, my only wish was that they lose their jobs, because, they should not be that aggressive. You don't treat people like that, regardless of who they are. And I had seen my mom suffer with oxygen. I saw my grandmother get cancer. And so I had this thing inside me called empathy, but it was coupled with a thing called compassion. And so I
Mm,
knew at 12 years old that I just wanted them to lose their jobs. And the lesson that I learned that day is that it doesn't matter, who a person is, what their title is, what their stature is. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay. And I
yeah.
don't know what they were going through before they arrived. And I don't know where the hostility came from, but I just knew that, what, we have a choice in how we react and how we respond. And just imagine if I would have tried to run away or did something, I probably wouldn't be on this episode today talking
Yeah.
about it. But hopefully that story will just show people that you could just be minding your own business, and your life could flash before your eyes and you could walk away with some pretty powerful lessons.
Yeah. Were you Sub Zero? Who were you
Oh, I
playing?
was Raiden. I was
You were
Raiden
Raiden?
at the time. Yep.
You about to crush it probably. Oh man.
Yep.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. And that's huge. And good on you for having that compassion and that empathy, because you're a better man than me. I'll say that. In my older age, I'm still working on myself. But Jordan, this has been amazing, man. Thank you so much for being on. Um, we're recording this in July, and the Paris Olympics are going to be out any minute. And I see breakdancing is in the Olympics.
Oh,
Am I going to see
brother.
you in Paris?
You know what? No, you won't see me in Paris, but it was actually kind of funny because I was talking to my wife. I've been breakdancing since the '90s, and
Yeah.
I still teach in my garage on Saturdays. Actually, starting back up in September, I teach people how to breakdance, and I was like, man, how cool is this? Like, I could actually start practicing, and I would be 46 in the 2028 Olympics. But like, how cool would that be, right? It's like I could start training now, like
Yeah.
if in 4 years of training, if I get into, I mean, I'm getting into better shape. I've dropped about 30 pounds in the last, month and a half, and I'm working out a bunch. And so I'm like, man, if I can get into my prime and do all the power moves, I might have a shot. Why
Hey,
not?
I'm working out a lot, man. I still have the box step down. Let's go. I'm with you.
Let's go. Let's do it.
I love it. But I saw breakdancing was in the Olympics, and that's one of the things you and I have in common. I don't know if I told you in college I was part of the most redundant name ever because we went to SUNY Albany. We were the ABC breakdancing crew, but
Okay.
ABC stood for Albany Breakdancing Crew. So
That's funny. That's awesome.
it was the
Yeah,
most
we were the
redundant name ever.
subtech crew in high school.
I love it.
So my nickname was Spins because I shoulder spins, back spins, head spins, any spin, that was my specialty. So
I love it. I love it. Well, you won't be seeing us at the Olympics, but you'll be seeing this podcast on every platform near you. Jordan, thank you for being on. To the listeners, to the viewers, we appreciate you as well. I'll be sure to have your links in the show notes so folks can connect with you, Jordan. And really quick before I wrap up, I'm going to share some of the gems you left along the way, if you don't mind, because as I
yeah,
mentioned,
of
a
course.
lot of folks are driving, talking, or maybe even cleaning up while they're listening to the podcast. You shouldn't be talking while listening to this podcast. That is rude, but effectively communicate with people. A lot of what we talked about today was about effectively communicating with people and understanding that you might be on a digital medium, but this is still a human connection. Early adopters get the views. When a platform, a software introduces a new feature, it is advantageous for you to not only use that feature, but lean into that feature because chances are they're also trying to promote that feature to their users as well. And you have to be top of mind. If you're posting once a week, that's not enough. Especially working in news, you know that there's a new breaking news story every 10, 20 minutes. So if you haven't posted in a day, you're probably irrelevant. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in a be consistent and be top of mind way. The six foundations, whether it's your banner image, your profile photo, the headline text, or your about summary, or if you're looking at the featured section or everything else underneath. Focus on your profile on whatever platform you are on in order to get the best ability and get the best chance of being discovered. Speaking of being discovered, interact with the people who interact with you. Focus on those RGAs, the revenue generating activities. Lurkers are good. And of course, character is what people hire overseas. So who you are is more important than what you know. And that is true, not just in overseas business, but it's true for the real business that you do here in the States. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for making it to the end. Thank you to entrepreneur, podcast host, author, speaker, and business coach, international business coach, Jordan Mendoza, for being on the podcast. And again, as always, hit that like button, hit subscribe, share this with a friend you know can get benefit from it. That's the best compliment you can give us, as well as leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. We have new episodes each and every single Wednesday. We'll catch you with another one next week. But until then, as we always say at the end, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow.